Hello everyone, welcome back. I am going to be jumping into an intuitive and astrology forecast for 2026. And this year I'm going to change it up a little bit because I'm only going to do one pile. The past couple years I've done like 3 piles, but I felt like in order to make this more accurate for the collective, I've decided to do just one. But I'm also supplementing this with basically a huge overview breakdown of 2026 astrologically. So if you want something a little bit more in depth, I would highly recommend getting my 2026 personal forecast. You can get that now on my website up until January 31st of 2026. And basically what I do is I pull one main card for you for the year, and then instead of breaking your year down into quarters, I actually break it down into months. And I throw a little bit of astrology in there, a little bit of numerology, to make just a hyper personalized version of this for you. And it is literally one that every single year I get people ranting and raving about how accurate it ends up being. I'll get messages in October being like, I just listened to my October and I just wanted to tell you that summer was exactly what you said. So if you think you're interested in that, definitely jump on it before the end of January. And just a few quick updates. Just a reminder, my Ireland trip is launched and it is open for bookings. At the time of recording this, I've only got 4 discounted early bird spots left. I would love to have you guys join me on this trip. If you want to learn more about it, check out the video in the card up above. And if you want to learn more about the itinerary, I do have it linked down in the top of the description down below. Just remember, you don't have to pay in full in order to reserve your spot. You can just put down a deposit. And if you're in the US, you can even use Affirm. I would love to meet a lot of you next year in 2026. And I'm really curious what August is going to look like because that's when we're going. But just a reminder, everyone is welcome to join us over on the Psychic Development Society. It is the new home. It is basically what I worked on all this year, and the masterclass just got moved over there. So side note, if you've got the masterclass on Udemy, I would jump on over there, shoot me a message so that we can get you a copy over on the society. But it's my one-stop shop for all of my courses, all of my coaching, my mentorship. We do monthly psychic practice nights. We also have a guest come in and teach a workshop. Like last month, we had Rachel Parks come in and she taught us an astro workshop about how to find the most psychic placements in your chart. And next month we've got Sonia coming in and she's going to be teaching us all about how to connect with our spirit guides using her method. So feel free to join the Psychic Development membership. We've got a lot of cool things happening over the next year. But other than that, let's get into it. So I wanted to pull one major arcana card. I ended up getting 2. They were like, no, you're doing 2. For overall of 2026, the energy. So let us see. I'm a bit nervous because I haven't even looked into my own personal 2026 yet. You know what? I'm here for it. Hell yes. I don't even remember what our 2025 card was. I should have looked at that beforehand. Yes. Okay. Justice and the Empress. Justice. This card is all about getting what is due. You know, putting in the hard work and seeing the rewards from it. And then the Empress card is like freaking abundance. It's abundance. The Empress has a garden that's lush, that's overflowing. She's happy and at peace because she has all of her needs and wants met. Now, not saying that this is 100% guaranteed like you're going to have the most amazing year ever, but it's the themes around this. It's the themes around abundance and lack, the themes around balance and lack of balance. So for some of you, you might have exactly the most positive version of this. And for some of you, you might have, more of a struggle with these themes throughout the year. But why I was saying heck yes is just globally, within the US, it's a big year astrologically, honestly, for the next couple of years. And so this to me is people fighting back. This is, I just immediately got like women standing up. I'm also feeling like this is maybe a slight turn towards the better, dare I say. which doesn't quite match the astrology. But again, I'm setting the intention for this to be about anybody who came across this reading. I also asked for a little bit of the collective as well. So that is who this reading is for. And jumping into our astro dice, we have the South Node in Leo in the 10th house. Interesting. So there is this sense of like being pushed out of our comfort zone, being pushed away from something we're comfortable with, especially within our work and our career. So there might be some shifts in your career, but it's one that requires you to be louder, to be more vocal, to be seen more. So it's not like you're leaving your job necessarily, but it's more of a getting pushed to speak up, speak louder, show yourself, put yourself on a stage within your career, how you're seen, the legacy that you leave behind, your vocation. We're definitely being pushed by the universe to get out of our comfort zone there and be louder and prouder of ourselves within our career, our vocation, which is very cool. So next what I want to do is I want to pull one card for each of the quarters. Let's do it. All right, and in order to make this kind of as accurate as possible, what I did was I pulled the correct seasonal cards from each of my decks. I did not leave myself enough room for cards. Okay. So first quarter, we have community garden. Makes sense. To be in community is to be part of something greater than you could have imagined. So community is going to be of huge importance from January to March. This, knowing the astrology, matches perfectly. It might be a rough start to the year when it comes to the astrology, but with this is saying that, you know, when we surround ourselves with others, it's going to lessen that burden. Or even if you're not experiencing that, if you're in a different part of, you know, the world, I feel like this is kind of just a reminder to surround yourself with good people. Don't hold yourself up. You know, when you focus on shared goals of your actual community showing up, and it's not just about you, but it's also about like helping others, you find that greater sense of purpose. Quarter two, we've got sun salutation. Praise the temple that carries your spirit. Support is needed. Okay, and so in this second quarter, we have, you know, I did pull this in reverse. I feel like this is a little bit of like the temple that carries your spirit. That's your body. And support is needed for our body. So I feel like, honestly, I feel like there's a little bit of stress here in this first quarter. Then by the second quarter, we're kind of feeling the effects of being in that, you know, fight or flight, or moving too quickly, which is another theme of this year. Like things are just going to start picking up speed and moving very quickly. And so sometimes we need to remember to slow down, actually support our physical vessel, especially if we've been giving too much to everyone else. This card is usually about like self-care and making it a priority. And so if you're having any struggles in this month, it's about making sure to take care of your physical self, your physical body, your soul's home. If you don't do that, it's a lot harder to show up and achieve the rest of the things that you want to do in life, especially after a quarter that's so heavy on like teamwork, building your network. So I do feel like, yes, a lot of this is external, but internally in your life, what you're doing is you're building up your networks, you're building community. Maybe that's even your literal clients, colleagues, community. And then by the second quarter, it's like noticing, oh, I've run myself down and I really need to rebalance this with the Justice card. Because I do feel like there might be quite a bit of abundance coming in this first quarter. And it could just be the abundance of like a lot of people showing up, a lot of opportunities, a lot of growth, and feeling like you have to take it all on. And then again, the second quarter is a little bit of a pulling back of this energy, prioritizing yourself. Okay, and then in the third quarter, we need to remember to breathe. We need to remember breath work, literally and figuratively. Like when this shows up as kind of like an overall symbolic message, I feel like breath work tends to be about like not just slowing down and being more mindful. It is a little bit of this taking care of your physical self, but it's a little bit more of your emotional, mental self. I'm just getting the sense of like don't go into like everything is falling apart, doom, 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 and gloom. I feel like this is reminding, like, I really like this phrase, allow your breath to expand your spirit and fill your heart. Like, there is this sense of heaviness on your heart, heaviness on your spirit, but remembering that your spirit is something that you can control. That breath work is something you can control. While the outer world you might not be able to, the things in your life might feel tense and like too much. Like I feel like I'm being drawn back to this samurai of like, I feel like, I don't even know if this is a thing, but I'm hearing that like you can't like fight while you're holding your breath. And I feel like this is kind of the same message here in the fall. You can't show up, you can't move forward through the tension by holding your breath. You still have to breathe. This card is also about like having more space, understanding that you are limitless, that you are expansive, that you are not contained. There is this sense of like feeling caged with this quarter. And there's something about breathing and slowing down and being mindful of, and like looking around and reminding yourself that like, I just feel like the overwhelm is a lot. It's almost like reminding yourself that like, I'm still okay. I'm still okay, like physically. I'm like, I feel like we're in fight or flight, and the message here is we have to remind our bodies that we are not physically in fight or flight. Like the danger feels very ethereal. And by ethereal, I don't mean like from spirit, but it comes from our phones, it comes from the news, it comes from, you know, your boss or something that doesn't actually affect you. But when you can slow down and take a breath, you're able to understand how to move through it a lot easier. This card can also be about like, you know, by doing breath work, you're meditating, you're more in connection to your intuition. And so following all the intuitive hunches that you have. It's also a period of like, you don't have to act right now. You can slow down. You can take stock of where you've been and where you're about to go. And you can breathe before you step into the next thing. Like, I do feel like there's this sense of like, things have been moving quickly and you're almost like, I still gotta go, go, go. But you're allowed to slow down. And the more you slow down, connect to spirit, connect to your intuition, the clearer headed you're gonna be about it. And justice, you know, is really about balance. You know, balance is about being able to handle everything that life's bringing to you. You know, it's balancing the stress with the good. You know, it's balancing your body with your mind. It's balancing both like being on your own versus being in community. And I do feel like this is all related in the sense that when you can balance all of these things, it's going to make for a much easier year, and it's going to bring you more abundance if you can strike a balance in all of these areas. And I don't feel like this is just like a, hey, just do this quarter, that quarter, that quarter. It's trying, unfortunately, to do it all throughout the whole year. And then in winter, it's almost like we don't get a break with snow in reverse. I'll just turn it upright so you can see it. Like, I feel like if we're moving along this trajectory, we should be slowing down, we should be wintering, but we're kind of not. And so the medicine here, or the advice, is that we do need to slow down. We do need to breathe. Winter, it's patience, softness, allowing. You know, snow is about purification. And when I pull this in reverse, it's almost like we need that. We need to purify. We need to purify like our thoughts, our feelings, our life just in general. Again, it's kind of this like, there's a lot of moments throughout 2026 where we kind of need to check back in and reprioritize where our time and energy is going, whether it's to our bodies, whether it's to our communities or ourselves, whether it's to our mental or emotional health. Like in December, this is, hey, life can look a lot brighter, a lot happier when I detox my mind, when I detox my soul. And there's a little bit of resistance to this in this last quarter. There might be things that are getting in your way. There might be imbalance that's causing you to not be able to like have this fresh, clean slate when it comes to like how you're looking at things and your perspective. Ultimately, though, December is like, hey, soften. There's no need to rush. Purify your thoughts. Purify. Did I say December? The last quarter. Purify your thoughts. Purify. There's a lot of letting go and shedding in this quarter astrologically. So the best thing you can do is slow down. Again, balance is a big keyword for this year. And I find it interesting that the Empress came up because I feel like I'm focusing more on the Justice card. But with the Empress, it's almost like this underlying energy of like, there is abundance here. There is good things here, but we're just so like busy. Like I keep seeing ants running around. Like we're so busy that we almost can't see it. So this year, intuitively, it's very much so about balancing all these different areas of our life. And when we do, what do we get? We get the rewards from that. So I feel like if we're taking this advice ahead of time, we're really able to manifest all of the abundance in all of these areas of like taking care of ourselves, taking care of our mental health, having a good community around us, which might just be the recipe for success, in your personal life, in your career. The biggest obstacle this year, fear that's not real. Danger that's not real with the Devil card. Reminding ourselves that it doesn't exist, that fear is just an illusion sometimes, reminding ourselves that we are safe, we are protected, is going to be one of the toughest parts of this year. How we thrive, though, we can't forget our manifesting potential. The Magician reminds us we can still manifest. We can still manifest this year when things feel rough, when things feel unclear. If you want to thrive this year, you isolate and focus on how do I manifest? How do I manifest abundance? And again, it's that Empress card. And I always love how the cards like come out because the Devil relating to justice, like that's the fear is going to throw us off balance, but manifesting is going to help us bring abundance, like literally. And the last thing I like to ask, is there anything else we need to know about 2026? Ooh, okay. What about it? Finances, money, and abundance. That's the area that they want to talk about. Oh, worldview. What's your point of view around finances, money, and abundance? Are you letting the world, are you letting what's happening in the world? Are you letting the fear? Are you letting self-limiting beliefs? Are you letting like the way you were raised around finances and money and abundance impact your ability to attract it, to manifest it? Just know that there might be something going on this year that really gets in your way of being able to attract it, but know that it's mental. Know that some of this might be other people's opinions and perspectives. So dive deeper into what do I actually believe around finances, money, and abundance. I'll tell you right now, I believe that it is just energy and it's something that you can manifest. And when you can get into that frequency, you can attract this. Love it. And if you want some good finances, money books, I would just recommend this one. Lucky Bitch. Like this book is actually about abundance in general. And yes, it talks about money. But I think that this is a good intro one because it also talks about abundance in general. All right, so just a reminder, you can purchase a more detailed version of your year and do that before the end of January if you want to get it for your upcoming year. But let's go ahead and move on to the astrology portion of this reading. All right, everyone. I tried to make this visually interesting. This is the best I could come up with. Maybe next year I'll have a better idea. But I'm just going to do a very brief overview of 2026 astrologically. Obviously, every single month with my forecast, we go into the intuitive reading and the astrological reading for each of these. I'm just pointing out the major things, also mixing in some of the predictions that I was making, just so we kind of have them to keep in mind right now at the top of the year. This year is just a really big year for Leo. So wherever Leo is in your chart, you want to look that up. And that's just going to have a lot of focus, a lot of planets going through it this year. That house in particular might just be really activated for you. So mine is my 12th house. I'm just realizing 12th house can be hidden enemies, but usually it's like solitude, who you are in your mind. Now, quarter one, which is these 3 months, these first 3 months kind of together, this quarter is about refining and redefining our values, like being disciplined about the things we want to manifest. It's strategic action. It's actually reconnecting with people who mean the most, which I didn't even realize. I forgot about that when we were doing our intuitive reading. So community, big part of that. So I'm just going to write these down. Strategic action. All right. And then quarter two, these 3 months, these are those actions actually becoming more outwards, more manifested. There's apparently like a heavy focus on words becoming weapons, words becoming tools of law. So I'm really not excited about that because my fear is like on the more negative side. There's always positive and negatives to all of these. But I'm worried that this is when we're really going to see a crackdown on dissent, in quotations, because they're redefining what dissent means. Like if you haven't already checked it out, I am actually co-hosting a segment on the Soul Driven podcast with Anna Hendricks. Her and I are basically doing monthly political forecasts. And so we've already done December and January, or sorry, no, November and December, or technically we didn't do November. We just did like an intro episode. But point being, we talked about dissent and some of that in our January one. Third quarter, July, August, September. This is activist action, power colliding, a little bit of a hot girl summer, bad girl summer, authority being tested and reset, our desires intensifying, and consequences with our communication. And then quarter four, this is more, there's a lot of like squares happening. So there's a lot of like inertia, because squares are not always like hard negative aspects. They are most of the time, but it's just a lot of action, a lot of force. So a lot of inertia, a lot of symbolic deaths in your life. I wrote down locking in, standing on business. There can be a lot of success had in December or in this quarter as well, but it requires a lot of shedding first. Now, obviously, every month we have 2, sometimes 3 lunations, but I just want to mark our biggest ones. So on February 17th, we are going to have a solar eclipse in Aquarius. And then on March 3rd, we're going to have a lunar eclipse. I still don't know the symbols for eclipses. I should have looked that up. Just know that these are moons. And this one is going to be in Virgo. That's kind of the last big Virgo eclipse that's going to happen. August 12th, which is going to be right in the middle of our Ireland trip. We have our next series of eclipses. And this one is going to be the first in Leo. And then August 27th is going to be the next one. And that is Pisces. So wrapping up the Pisces story. And so I've learned some things. I've been going to the Astrology podcast meetup here in Denver. And I finally understand why we have so many eclipses in Virgo and Pisces. And that's because eclipses are based on where, yes, the sun and the moon are, but they're also based on the nodes. And so what's happening, the nodes are still in Pisces and Virgo, but the sun and moon are in Aquarius and Leo. And so it's like a half and half energy, apparently. You're getting half of a story that's starting, like it's technically, the first of three, and then this one would be the second of three. But because those nodes are still in Pisces and Virgo, you're still getting some old energy from the last Pisces Virgo eclipses. So you're going to want to look back at those eclipses in the story that you're going to be learning from them. But here on March 3rd, those nodes and the sun and moon are fully in Virgo and Pisces. So you're getting the full energy, the true ending of what the Virgo and Pisces eclipses are. And so I believe this is 3 of 3. And we are going to have one more group of, I believe, Pisces and Virgo eclipses where they're going to be half and half again. And we'll get the very last continuation of that story, I think, in 2027. All right, let's go through month by month now. So January is all about drive, recalibration. We have that on the 18th, the very final of the Mercury-Mars conjunction story. So that's like the 3 of the 3 that started back in October. If you were paying attention to what it was doing, it's going to be a little bit tougher for day charts in January. The big thing that happens though on the 26th, we've got Neptune moving back into Aries. So our second of 4 final planets back in Aries, and it's not going back to Pisces ever again. So definitely pay attention on this date to what is happening in the Aries part of your life, because that's going to signal a lot of what's going to happen with Neptune in that area of your chart. All right, then we move on to February. February, I'm nervous about for many reasons. I'm going to cover it a little bit more in a podcast that I hope to do as soon as I get back in town from Christmas. I want to cover the past, not only eclipse cycle, but the past Saturn-Neptune conjunction that happened in August and September of 2025. I still haven't gotten to do that. And so definitely keep an eye out for that episode if you want to know my guesses for what's going to happen in February, just globally. It's going to be very electric this month. Lots of unexpected surprises. Prediction-wise, there's going to be something going on with millennials in this month too, because of I'm not going to dive too much into it, but their millennials, their generational placements versus the boomer generational placements are just going to be clashing in this month. So big one that's happening in February is Uranus is stationing direct. It's not moving into Gemini yet, but what it's doing is it's not moving backwards anymore, and it's moving forwards. And so on that date, again, we want to pay attention to what it was doing in the Taurus version of our chart, because that's the old place that it's been in. It's going to tell you that last final story of what it was doing in your whatever house of Taurus. The big thing that's happening is on February 17th, we've got that Aquarius eclipse, but it's also square Uranus. So there's definitely going to be this element of something big, something unexpected, activating those Aquarius themes. Aquarius just keeps showing up with like tech, AI. Again, eclipses are major beginnings and major endings. And just before this, on February 13th, we've got Saturn moving into, Aries. So now we have both Saturn and Neptune moving into Aries, but this is happening so close to that eclipse that it kind of bakes it into that eclipse cycle. But again, on the Saturn going into Aries, you want to pay attention, because that's going to signal what Saturn in Aries is doing in that house for you the next 3-ish years. So Saturn in Pisces folks, you get to say, yay, I'm done with my Saturn return. If you have Saturn in Aries, welcome to your Saturn return. towards the end of the month, Mercury stations retrograde on top of this, but then also Saturn and Neptune go exact. And that's going to happen on the 20th. So we're going to have the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, which this is the symbol for conjunction, at 0 degrees. Maybe I should just zoom in for... I'm just going to do that so you guys can see a little bit better there. This day I'm worried about. This whole week or so I'm worried about. Saturn-Neptune conjunction. I talked about it in several past episodes, just letting you guys know some of the things that I see coming up. Definitely things with the states and boundaries of states. I'm worried about the Zaporizhia power plant. This is a huge, huge one for Russia as well. So definitely going to be some Russian huge news, especially with it being at 0 degrees, AI as well. And it's just amplified by this eclipse. And again, I'm going to cover that in the podcast where I discuss the last eclipse cycle and the last Saturn-Neptune conjunction cycle. And I think I've decided I'm going to put everything that has happened that I recorded in a document on the Psychic Development Society. That way I don't have to list them all. And if you want to go peruse on your own, you are absolutely welcome to. And then at the end of the month, it's just perfect too because we have Mercury going retrograde. So just a fun month all around. Then we move to March. March, we're understanding a little bit more of what Saturn and Neptune of Aries actually looks like in our chart because of the angles and aspects that are happening to it. So we're learning a little bit more about that in March. Again, we've got that Virgo eclipse wrapping up a story that's already been started. But on March 20th, Mercury stations direct. I didn't write where Mercury went retrograde, but it goes back direct on that day. Again, just to keep things brief, moving along, April, that's when that words having strong weight comes in. Our thoughts actually are starting to create action. A lot of this is because Mars is going into Aries on the 9th. There's a lot more that's happening here. Just know that like mid-April to mid-May is pretty intense, especially because on the 25th, we have Uranus moving into Gemini, which, let's see, what was this? This is our second, because Aquarius, Pluto in Aquarius has already moved permanently. Right here, Neptune moves permanently. And again, by permanently, I mean for a very long time, but not permanently. And then Saturn moves. And then by April, we are fully back into our August, September energy of 2025. Sorry, July, August. Or was it August, September? It was like late summer energy of how intense things were. So definitely, again, pay attention on this date, because that's going to symbol what's going on in your life and what's coming up for the whole of Uranus and Gemini, which is about 7-ish years. May, not too much to note here. On the 6th, we've got Pluto stationing direct. So again, anytime a planet moves forward, backwards, you just pay attention to what you're doing, because in that area of your chart, which will be Aquarius, it's going to just let you know what Pluto's doing for you there. Mid-May on, it becomes a little less tense. Again, I'm skipping over a lot. Don't think that this is the only things that are happening. I'm just covering the absolute major things. June is Jupiter moving into Leo. Confidence is rewarded. The best aspect of this year happens on the 9th, which is Venus and Jupiter are conjunct. So just a really great harmonious day to plan anything major that you want to create. end of June, Mercury stations retrograde again. By the end of the month, we're starting to experience some real volatileness because of what's about to happen in July. This is when activists really step up. People are rewarded, maybe even made martyrs for their activism. There's a lot of action happening, a lot of power colliding, clashing. And this has a lot to do with, on July 4th, we have our Mars conjunct Uranus, which, if you really want to know more about it, the Astrology Podcast just did a 5-hour podcast on it. I am not quite done with it, but I intend to be and be more knowledgeable about it. This is about acting fast and dealing with the consequences of this in your personal life, but also on a more global political scale. The reason why I don't like this, and a lot of astrologers don't like this, is that every single one of the Mars-Uranus conjunctions have, in Gemini specifically, it's in this specific sign, I'll just put that there, it has been associated with a really volatile, like literally bloody battle or huge turning point in kind of like American wars. And so basically in that podcast, they've gone over every single Mars-Uranus conjunction in both the Revolutionary War, Civil War, World War II. I've made it through the Revolutionary War part as of right now, and it's like all the major turning points of that war, whether it was like a really bloody battle, a siege, peace treaties as well. It's not always negative. It's just like the turning point of to get to the next thing. But the fact that this is happening not only on our birthday as a country, it bakes in this energy for the whole year. And so I'm worried about, because I just heard that there's going to be another No Kings protest. Or wait, no, it was in June 14th. Never mind. I don't know. I'm worried that there's going to be a protest here this day. I know they're doing something at the White House. I'm just very, very nervous. There's going to be, essentially, once April rolls around with this Uranus moving into Gemini, we're starting that 7-year cycle that has always coincided with the U.S. being at war as of this day. I'm not saying we're going to war on that day, but there's definitely something happening on July 4th with that energy. And this happens 4 more times in that Uranus 7-year cycle. The next one will happen right at the beginning of January 2027, and I'll cover that when I get to the end. Mercury will station direct again on this date. I apparently wrote down all the station directs, but not when it stationed retrograde. There's a lot of stations happening in here. So Neptune stations retrograde in July, Aries stations retrograde in July. We also have Jupiter opposite Pluto. Sometime in July, we also have the North and South nodes shift. So they are no longer in Pisces and Virgo, but they move into Aquarius and Leo. And so I'll cover that in July's forecast of what that's going to look like for you for about the next 18 months. And that's usually like the North node pushing you in a direction of wherever Aquarius is in your chart. So for me as a Virgo rising, that's my 6th house. So I'm being pushed to fix things in my 6th house and get out of my comfort zone, South node of the 12th house. But it's basically starting in Aquarius Leo cycle. Again, you end up seeing most of these with the eclipses. But it's still happening and affecting you for those full 18 months. It's like spirit, the universe pushing you in a direction. So right now, what's happening all the way up until July is we still have our North node in Pisces, South node in Virgo. And so, oops, I wasn't paying attention. And so that means you have been pushed by the universe in the direction of your North node for a hot minute. That's my seventh house of one-on-one relationships, marriage. That is so true. As being forced to get out of my comfort zone of my south node, which is me. It's all about me. No, no, no. I need to care about the other people in my life. That sounds really like self-centered. It's not that I'm doing that, but just symbolically, it's like you singularly, first house versus seventh house, other people. And so the universe has been pushing me in that direction. And so again, in July, it's going to shift nodes. In July, there's also this basket happening. And I don't know the date. I tried to find it, but this is the André Barbeau, the old French astrologer, who said that something in July, the aspects in the chart kind of create this like basket looking thing. And this is supposed to be, let me just read this. The New World civilization, the beginnings of which appeared around the year 2000, is in full flight here. This entry into the second quarter of the century bears the stamp of the achievement of a new age of humanity. The central and harmonic position of the Saturn-Neptune conjunction is especially expressive of a promotion of the lower strata of the world population, a significant rise in the standard of the living of the poor, a victory over misery won in unprecedented solidarity. So it really talks about like this guy thought that there becomes a better balance of poor versus rich. And the fact that it's happening here with this moment, I wonder, like, it's not going to turn around this month. I don't think everything is going to be fixed in July. I think what's going to happen is something volatile, something big that we will be able to look back on in many, many years and be like, that's the start of when we started changing rich versus poor. That's my guess with this, like, bucket shape that's happening. It's apparently a really good harmonious aspect, but the question is like, who is it helping harmoniously? The bad guys or the good guys, but anyways, I'm gonna do more research on this, and hopefully we'll also see what that looks like in your chart. This is a little bit of a continuation of that kite formation, but it's changed a bit. It's incorporating, I want to say it was Jupiter instead of a different planet or something. So we'll see when we get there if it's a good or bad thing. August, we've got bad girl summer, hot girl summer, authority being tested, authority being reset. It's fiery. We've got the eclipse season. Again, if you don't want to deal with that and be here, you can join me in Ireland and escape it all. We also have Mars moving into Cancer. A lot of August is essentially like testing these structures and being like, are they going to stand? Are they going to stand the test of time? Authority being tested overall. September, this is kind of that energy of our desires are intensifying. There's more consequences to the communications that we have. On the 1st, we've got another Mars square Saturn, which is again that pushing on the gas pedal and on the brake at the same time. So it's like we want something, but it's not quite happening. On the 10th, we've got Uranus stationing retrograde with a new moon and 2 other planets doing stuff. So there's just like a lot of heavy energy around this 10th area. On the 27th, Mars moves into Leo. Want to be paying attention to like Trump's chart if he's still alive at this point. I hope my dream about him passing it in January comes true. Even if you're dead, though, you can still have a part of your chart activated. Well, so like Epstein is dead. Epstein has Pisces at 15 degrees, which will also be activated in February. Every time that gets activated, we hear about the Epstein files. Like, so there could be something that we're even finding out about Trump in September, even if he's gone, because I'm just manifesting this. Mars in Leo, and then we've got Mercury into Scorpio, moving forward to October. Again, shedding, acknowledging the pain, purifying where we need to, stripping down our values to the absolute essentials. On the 3rd, we've got Mars opposite Pluto. Also Venus stationing retrograde. This one is going to have quite a bit of importance. There's going to be a Venus story playing out over these last 3 months, so probably important to pay attention to that day. Overall, October is going to be kind of one of the rougher months of the year. There's a lot of squares with Mars. Pluto stations direct on the 15th. November, a little bit more harmony. It's a little bit smoother of a month. On the 15th, both Mercury and Venus station direct on the same day. I didn't write down the day, but sometime in here also Mars enters Virgo at 9 degrees. I've got Virgo at 7 degrees, so I'm very curious what that's going to look like. My goal for this month is to try to pay better attention to the inner planets. I feel like I'm really good at the outer planets, but I need to start understanding the inner planets and how they affect me a little bit more. So I'll try to incorporate those more into my forecasts. December, there's lots of stations. There's this kind of like mental volatility that turns into kind of like a somber resolve. It's like you're understanding what the Venus retrograde was about, and you're kind of returning back from the underworld with Venus, and you're like, oh, okay, this is what needs to be done. We have like a Mars square Uranus. We have Saturn stationing direct. We have another Mercury-Mars conjunction, which is this story. Oops, this story up here, happening again in December. So I'm like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen that far apart. Jupiter starts to go retrograde in Leo. Sorry, I didn't write down any of these dates. And essentially at the end of Jupiter, what we're gearing up for is another Mars conjunct Uranus. And I want to say it's either like January 4th or 7th. So we're still getting the effects of that, and it's building up at the end of December. So there's a little bit of tension happening there. And that'll be the second of the 4 Mars conjunct Uranus that happen in the US over the next 7 years. And I'll show a graph here. I'm concerned about these Mars conjunct Uranus. I'm also concerned about the Uranus just in Gemini, essentially. And then I'm also concerned about the Uranus trining Pluto these next couple of years, because a lot of it might have to do with big tech innovations and maybe not so much in a good direction. We shall see. It might not start that way. Maybe it will end better, but I'll be covering a little bit more of these graphs from Honeycomb when we get to each of those months. I would highly recommend getting a Honeycomb calendar. This is the one that I've been using all year. It's been very loved. It's ridiculous. I put a little tutorial on the Psychic Development Society of how to make your own if you do want it for next year. I need to order mine. And so this was kind of like an overview of the year as a whole. Let me know if like individual transits and like giving you a calendar of your personal year as like a paid reading, it would be something you're interested in. Maybe I'll do that like next year. In the meantime, I'd highly recommend Chris Brennan's forecast. Those should be up by now, of all of the individual signs for the year. Also, I highly recommend Haley Comet Astrology. Both of them make basically a video for each rising sign and what to expect for the new year. So I would highly recommend adding that to your watch list next. But yeah, everyone, that is a very brief overview. Not even close to everything that's happening, but ish, the major things happening in 2026. It can be a year of like a lot of quick action, fast personal change. Like you're going after your goals and you're making them happen in your personal life. It is going to feel a lot different than prior years just because we have so many of those outer planets moving signs. So much of this year is in fire and air signs, whereas before we've mostly been in earth and water. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how it turns out. I'll be here every single month, kind of giving you my best advice. Let me know if you have any questions, if I've missed anything, what you're looking forward to this year, what you're hoping to manifest.